Hello there, welcome back to Cover True Crime on an all new show recap. This show recap is called the season finale of Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup. This is episode 11, and hopefully there isn't another season. If this sounds interesting, please stay tuned. So let's begin. In the opening scenes, we're at Gypsy's family home where, Gypsy has to live there most of the time. So she's there preparing baby Aurora a bottle. And in the opening scenes, she says the biggest lie. She goes on to say that yesterday, her and Ryan had a conversation for the first time in 6 months. Now, we know that's a lie because on a previous episode, Ryan spilled the beans and so did Lifetime. Gypsy has been texting Ryan pictures of the baby since the baby was born and pictures of herself. And she's been blaming it on postpartum depression when she says she never had postpartum depression. So she goes on saying that the way that they bantered, it felt like a friendship, and she wants to sit down and have a face-to-face with Ryan, and that way that they can both go into the paternity testing center and they can each give their swabs, because apparently Ryan isn't satisfied with the paternity results that her and Ken and the baby had gotten when she wasn't even born yet. She ended up getting, I guess, blood work done that she ended up posting on her social media, but a lot of people weren't satisfied with that because nobody can believe anything that comes out of Gypsy's mouth. So she said if he needs this, then she's going to give it to him. That is when the producers asked her, well, did you at least speak to Ken about this? And she's like, Ken was at work, but she did text him. And that's really odd because this is something you should be discussing with your partner. We then get inside, and of course, everyone else is always taking care of baby Aurora except Gypsy. We then flash over to Ken, Gypsy's boyfriend, and he is in Metairie, Louisiana, in his house. And, he's talking to producers saying that Gypsy's been gone all week. It's been quiet around the house, and he misses the baby. He says he misses his girls, but I'm pretty sure he just misses the baby. So, the producers asked him, did Gypsy call you? And he's like, no, she didn't call me about anything, but she texted me. And this is when he goes on to say that Gypsy texted him, pretty much getting his input on how he would feel if sometime next week that if she can get together with Ryan and the baby in order to get the paternity test done. Ken is flipping. He's upset because he's like, he doesn't understand how he doesn't accept the original paternity test that they did because it was legitimate and it's in black and white. And he just says, I guess denial is a crazy thing, saying pretty much that Ryan is in denial. And that's when the producers ask him, well, how do you feel about Ryan being with Gypsy and your baby alone? He gives us a smile, and that is an evil smirk because he is not happy about that, and I don't blame him. He's like, Aurora's not going to be there. As much as, you guys know I don't like Ken, I can understand him on this point. And he goes on to say, I am not going to have my daughter involved in that mix. Ken doesn't want his daughter to be dragged throughout the mud when she doesn't need to be. And he goes on to say that Gypsy's always talking about this closure, and she just keeps waiting longer and longer for this dumbass closure that I don't know what she expects is going to happen out of that. But he's like, it's like, whatever, but baby Aurora is not going to be there. We then cut back to Gypsy, and she's apparently getting ready to take her final driver's exam. This time, the vehicle is different because the previous time she's took her exam, it's been in a regular vehicle. Now she's in a SUV, and she is a bit nervous, which is, understandable. Again, if you're used to driving a regular small vehicle and you get into a van or SUV, it's a bit bigger and it takes time to adjust. So she's explaining that she's nervous. Her father is just Rod. It's like, oh, well, I can't wait that, she gets this done and she passes. It'll be another stepping stone into adulthood and for her to feel grown and independent. And he is nervous as hell also. And he's like, well, she got out of the driveway, so I guess she's good. It's not good because Gypsy, instead of braking, she ends up stepping on the accelerator and she doesn't even know which one is the brake or the accelerator. And the fucking instructor is just laughing to keep from fucking crying. And we get to the highlight of the show where Gypsy Rose has to slander her mother even more, stating that her mother didn't have an identity for herself and she feels like that is where her mom screwed up. I mean, she says that, quote, I was her whole life, her whole existence. Well, that's what happens when you have a child, Gypsy Rose. Your baby becomes your whole life and your whole existence. But, Gypsy wouldn't understand that, so that's why we all fear for her when she even was pregnant and now she has a whole fucking baby. But that's a whole other topic. So she continues on her tests or driving exam, and apparently, I don't know how she fucking scored a 90, but apparently she passes. I think this is all fake. Doesn't she have like eye issues? Like, how the fuck could she even pass her exam without glasses on? I know she had surgery in her eyes, but it's obvious that one of her eyes are seeing two different people at the same time. But anyway, the instructor leaves her with things that she can work on, like she's putting her turning signals on too soon. Never mind that Gypsy didn't know the difference between the accelerator and the brake, but I digress. Let's keep it moving. So we get back to Metairie, Louisiana, and that is Ken's house and Gypsy's house when she can be there. And Gypsy is feeding baby Aurora, once again talking to producers, stating that she had plans to go with Aurora where they can give their results at the same place. Her, baby Aurora, and Ryan, where she can meet Ryan face to face and they can have, again, some kind of closure moment. Listen, closure is like waiting to dig your own grave. It doesn't fucking exist. But I digress. Let's continue. But she also goes on to say, but Ken had high reservations against it. Like we saw him talking to the producers. And he went ahead and gave Gypsy Rose an ultimatum that if she was going to meet with Ryan, that their relationship will be in jeopardy, and that Ken said he will move back to Texas and file for custody. Now, take notice, Gypsy says that the ultimatum is if she meets up with Ryan, but Ken doesn't give a shit if she meets up with Ryan. It's the fact that Ken doesn't want Gypsy to bring her baby, his baby, Aurora, in the mix of that shit. So she's not even saying that correctly. That is a classic sign of narcissism. She has to make it about herself, when Ken can give two shits what he does with Ryan, in my opinion. So Gypsy goes on to say that she was put in a corner, but she's not going to risk losing her family, and she's not going to go ahead and do this. It is also, in my opinion, that Gypsy set up this whole thing. The fact that she wanted to get together with Ryan for this so-called quote-unquote closure, and for him to feel better getting a paternity test with herself, baby Aurora, and Ryan, in order to get a reaction from Ken. This is in my belief, was Gypsy Rose's plan. Another thing about narcissists, and the reason why I believe Gypsy set this whole plan, is because narcissists thrive on reaction. Whether it's negative or positive, good or bad, they thrive on reactions, putting themselves in the middle of conflict in order for them to feel superior or important or great. So we see Ken, and he's getting ready to leave, and he's, enjoying his last couple of hours or whatever with baby Aurora. And we get a clip of Parker, and Parker knows that Ken is leaving for the day, and he doesn't look happy at all. He's like, oh my god, you gotta leave me with this fucking witch bitch. So Ken goes on to tell Gypsy, can you wait till I get home tonight? And she's like, what does it matter? I'm gonna be at cutoff. And he's like, no, I'm saying that you can't wait for me here. And that's when she's like, oh. So Ken goes ahead and he leaves, and Gypsy gets to crying again, talking about, I won't be seeing Ken again for a while because I guess she's going back home to the Blanchard family house. And she goes on to say that it's hard to have this relationship where she has to live in two different households and they can't be together full time. That's when she goes on to say that she feels more distance to Ken than ever. This whole fucking "it's all about me" spiel shit again. And then she goes on to say that she thought that she made it very clear to Ken that you can say that you love me, but you gotta show it. So she goes on to say that she wants cuddles and she wants snuggles and she wants words of affirmation. And in Gypsy's Demona terminology, that means she wants to get down and dirty multiple times in order for herself to feel wanted. And if you cannot compete with her libido, why don't you just go ahead and lock up all the toothbrushes? Producers then point out and want to show us something that's on the wall that is a printout that says Aurora's Daily Care. And Gypsy made a post about this stating that it was for a reminder for Ken, but we don't believe you, Gypsy. We believe it's for yourself. We then get Gypsy reiterating, saying that she understands why Ken doesn't want her, to meet up with Ryan, with Aurora, because that is her father. Gypsy then tells producers not only did Ken give her an ultimatum, but Ryan sent her a text giving her an ultimatum stating, quote, "Tell him, Ken, I meet Aurora or she stays in Anderson," end quote. Ryan actually sends a few texts that Gypsy shows to producers. Another text that says, quote, "I'm just saying, I have the trump card right now, so he needs to realize that and accept it." Now, in my opinion, reading and listening to these texts from an almost 40-year-old grown man to use a baby, as a power play is highly, highly disturbing and disgusting, to say the least. And as much as I was giving Ryan credit for gaining one of his ball sacks on a previous episode, well, he officially lost it, and he's never getting it back. He should have listened to his attorneys. So, Ryan was using the fact that the baby was born in Anderson, so he is acting like he has rights to the baby. So, Gypsy was confused about this, and she's wondering what are his rights if he has any. So that's when she said that she was going to see what type of situation that they were in, and she was going to contact her attorney, and she wants to try to diffuse the situation. But after a string of Ryan's text messages that made her uncomfortable, she just decided to tell him that she's done with the conversation and didn't want to talk to him no more about it. Gypsy goes ahead and then says that she did speak to her attorney and she gave her the advice to just get a court order to establish the paternity. In which all of that would have been avoided if Ryan would have utilized his attorney and Gypsy would have utilized her attorney. But, that's not going to happen when Gypsy likes to dangle a fucking string in front of Ryan's nose and Ryan likes to pull at it. So that's just what happens. We then have Ken and Gypsy driving to the Blanchard home, and they're still on the topic on paternity. So they're saying that the plan for today is that Ken is going down to file to establish paternity, and they're just gonna take it from there. And then Ken is all frustrated, stating that Ryan is almost 10 years older than him and he can't act like an adult. He wants to act like a baby. Again, we see more text messages from Ryan, pretty much acting like a baby, saying, "I'm not budging. I have this whole time." He just needs to fucking stop. Gypsy's just like, "The fact is that we need to have this test done that we already took, but it wasn't good enough. We'll just have to get through it, blah, blah, blah." We then get to Lake Charles and we see Ryan. His face is so punchable right now. But anyway, we see Ryan, he's driving and he's texting and the producers ask him, "So what are you hoping to find out today?" And Ryan is just like, it's just, where do we go from here? I mean, what do you expect to go from here, Ryan. You go and get the fucking test done and find out if you're the father or not. And then at the same time, you see Ken, and he's in the car with Gypsy, and she's talking about, oh, I know you had good intentions with trying to get it established, the paternity established or whatever with you and with Ryan. She's like, I like to approach situations with a kind heart. My good intentions always seem to backfire on me. And here's fucking Ken saying, but you've got a good heart and it shows. Really, fucking Ken? Really? I can't believe this shit, yo. And they go in to go visit Gypsy's attorney. So both of them are visiting their attorneys. We get to the office of Ryan's attorney, where he gets to sit down with them and they can fucking probably talk sense to him. And, he's going over the whole thing, and we meet Jeff, one of Ryan's attorneys, where, if a child is born while you were still married, you're going to be listed as a biological father. We all know this. And he goes on to say, normally the parties wait till the baby is born, but Gypsy didn't do that, and is in his opinion that he thinks that she was trying to thwart that process. Hey, dude, we don't blame you there. He goes, either way, we can have a formal hearing, and Ken and Gypsy will sign this affidavit, and, all you gotta do is take your swabs at this one medical place, and then once the paternity is established, and if you're not the father, they'll amend the birth certificate. So Ryan's listening to all this. And that's when his other attorney wants to ask him, well, have you been in contact with Gypsy? And that's when Ryan sits there with a dumb face, with egg on his face, saying, we were trying to set up something for the paternity to, and he's like, yeah, I know you've told me that many times not to be in contact with Gypsy. No, I know that. Acting like a fucking baby, looking ridiculous, but she still cares about me, but it's nothing. It's like we both kind of miss each other's friendship, and no, we flirted, but nothing like that. I don't think she can help it. Really, Ryan, I don't think you can help it. Because you look real stupid right now. So his other attorney is talking to producers, saying that he had a lot of love over Gypsy, and it was hard for him to overcome it because it was very, very powerful in the beginning. And at one point Ryan was hoping that they can reconcile, that she doesn't go ahead with a divorce, and that Ryan was desperately in love. Embarrassing! So then we're back in Metairie, Louisiana, at Ken's house, and Gypsy's there, and she talks about she has this damn bucket list of all the things that she wants to do with her and, with Ken and the baby when she is off parole, and she lists Iceland, and she looks real evil when she says that. I don't know why the fuck she wants to go to Iceland, but who gives a fuck, whatever her bucket list was. I didn't even take note of it. And then she goes on to say that we were intimate for the first time. Like, who the fuck wants to know that? Okay? And I think that helped us reconnect. Gypsy, having sex is not the only thing for you to reconnect with with a partner. But she's so fucking narrow-minded, and she's just so delusional that she thinks that it's all about having intimacy to reconnect with someone. It's ridiculous. Anyway, her and Ken get in the car, and they have baby Aurora, and apparently Gypsy's going to get her driver's license. Again, I don't know how the fuck she can see when she's had vision problems and surgery in her eye throughout her childhood, and her right or left eye is still fucked up. But anyway, I digress. They go to celebrate at a little bakery, and Ken's like, can I get a carrot cake square? Who the fuck calls it a carrot cake square? Kenneth, you're a fucking square. You're a carrot cake square. Anyway, they're cheering to Gypsy getting her driver's license, and Ken's talking about because Gypsy's mentioned that Valentine's Day coming, and because Ken says he has to work, they'll have a little Valentine's Day in the morning. He'll make some breakfast. And Gypsy's like, no, but you haven't asked me if I will be your Valentine's Day. So Ken goes ahead and asks, will you be my Valentine's Day this year, Gypsy? And they, ask to be each other's Valentine's Day, blah, blah. We then cut to sad Ryan, and he's driving, and he's telling producers that he's on his way to get swabbed at the medical facility for the paternity test. And he goes on talking about that this might be the last chapter for him, and he's anxious about it, but he's dreading it at the same time, because this might be the end and it might close the book forever. And producers ask him, are you happy about that? And he's like, I don't know, she might be happy about it, but I'm not. But maybe that's what we want. I don't know. Ryan, it's over. You guys are fucking divorced. Once you find out this isn't your baby, you need to move the fuck on. That is it. Stop saying we. Y'all are not a couple anymore. And go on with your life. Well, he gets in there, and of course producers have to play a sad ass fucking song, and he goes on his soliloquy saying that he never thought that he will be having to do a paternity test to find out if he's the father of Gypsy's baby, because he was married to her and they were planning on having a baby. And in this moment, I do feel for Ryan a little bit, because this is heart crushing. But then the producers ask him, in what way are you ready for a definitive ending? And Ryan says, I mean, in life, do you ever get endings? Yes, Ryan, you get endings, like the ending of your divorce. Everything has a fucking ending. And this is his problem. So Ryan goes on to have a pity party for himself, and he's like, she's done so much hurt to me, like, this is nothing. This is just like the icing of the cake for me. Lifetime continues with this sad-ass music, and Ryan is giving his swab with his eyes closed, like he's hoping and praying that Gypsy's baby is his and shit. And that was that. We get to an aquarium in New Orleans. Gypsy is taking baby Aurora to the aquarium, where she don't even know what the fuck is going on. She's only like a month old, if that. And she's just talking about, what's meant to be a good partner and the same whatever dumb shit that she talks about. Who cares? And she tries to release a butterfly, and the butterfly is so stunned with her fucking negative energy, it can't even fly off. And it's just there. 2 weeks later, we finally get the results we've been waiting for. And the DNA test report says, when it comes to child Aurora R. Anderson, you are not the father. The probability of paternity was 0%. We then get back to, I guess, Gypsy and Ken, where the producers ask Gypsy, has Ryan stated anything after he got the results of the paternity test? Gypsy goes ahead and says no, he hasn't said anything, and that's when I'm going to show you what happens in animation.
Anything about it on his live? He hasn't said anything about it.
So, Ryan being a petty little bitch is no longer standing in our way, huh?
Kenny! I don't know, Ryan's a mixed bag of emotions. I do my best not to judge Ryan, because I have been there and still am there with healing. Time will heal, but there's no measure of time to where it's like, okay, in 5 years, you'll be okay.
I mean, he said it himself before, like, I never questioned the paternity, but now all of a sudden he wants to just, like, cause all this drama and chaos. But it's all over now, and we're almost out of the woods.
Gypsy then goes on a rant how her and Ken can't give up on each other, that she can see her and Ken 20 years into the future, and that if they both were to die, they had a good life. It's another day, and Ken is talking to producers, and he is driving. And that's when he goes on to say that he thinks he knows exactly what will make his gypsy pop really happy. they're in a really good place and they've had some really good days, and he finally parks and gets out, and he's at a jewelry store. And he says hi to the person that's working there. She's like, welcome to the ring store. And Ken goes on to say to the producers in a few months that Gypsy is going to be off parole. So what better way to celebrate than to reassure her that he is committed to them? So is Ken actually going to propose to Gypsy? I mean, I think it's possible because remember, you can be engaged for a long, long time. People are engaged for many years. And I think that's what Ken is trying to do, in my opinion. Ken is trying to buy the time of trying to say that because Gypsy wants to get married and he doesn't. I believe he doesn't. I think we all believe he doesn't. But I think he's trying to buy his time by getting an engagement ring just to make her ass feel better. But what do you guys think? That was the end of the episode. So if you reach this part of the video, thank you so much for tuning in. I pray to God that they are not lining up for another season of Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup. But there hasn't been any confirmation, so crossing fingers that she is no longer going to be profiting off her egregious crime and getting paid to do so. Thank you guys for being here. Please leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I'll catch you next time. Don't forget to take care of yourself and be safe. Bye.